Welcome to the Influencer Marketing Blueprint, where we teach e-commerce brands the three-step formula that drives revenue, not just likes. I'm Cody Whittick.
And I'm Taylor Lagasse, and we're here to guide you to influencer marketing success. Let's get started.
All right. What's up, Taylor?
How you doing, man? Long time no talk. I feel like I say that every time. God.
Cut. No, we're back with another episode. Last time we talked about, given the time of the year with NFL, college football coming around, getting your product into those locker rooms, those locker room drops. Hopefully that was valuable. Today we're going to be talking about ways to capture content. So if you've listened along, followed along this journey, we've talked about our seeding process and that being an effective way to get content and have it be a content pipeline for your paid media efforts. But today we're going to be talking about and how that compares, and really just influencers in general, even if you don't do seeding, like ways to tap on influencers versus going towards the studio shoot, production shoot route. So first off, like maybe Taylor, give context of, I think probably most people know what a studio shoot is, production shoot is, but influencer marketing for dummies, or just marketing for dummies. Like how would you define those, or like paint the picture of like what that looks like for brands?
I think the easiest way to give the correlation or the relationship, when you like scroll on your feed and you see like a catalog ad, you see catalog pictures, like that's for sure a studio shoot. Or if you see like a banner, like if you see Jordan Palmer and Lululemon, like posing for the camera, that's a
Shout out to
studio shoot.
JP.
Shout out Jordan Palmer. Just models, studio shoots, white backdrop, produced content, staged content, things along those lines. But
yeah. So you're casting models, casting talent, working with like casting agencies, basically. Like you pick and choose. I remember my days at Kalo, like it was.
You had a couple big ones.
It felt so weird, actually. But like when I would work on studio,
you were a model yourself. Like, that's right. You did some modeling yourself.
Well,
Come on, hey, you heard it here first.
No, no, but like when we would actually like cast for like shoots that we were looking for, like models that we were looking for, it always felt a little weird. But it was just like, okay, we need this ethnicity. We need, we need 2 males, 2 females. Like, how are these couples going to look together? Like that type of things. Obviously, being a wedding ring company. So that goes into it. And then you're paying them a good fee and they can take it or leave it. And you kind of go through a casting agency. So you pay for that fee as well. So I guess let's go into like ways that we've talked about capturing content versus with influencers. So there's obviously like casting. So we talked about like casting models to capture content, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the other fees involved? Obviously you have like photographer, videographer, if you're going to get video assets,
editing.
Yeah. Editing.
Costs.
You're talking in, the location. So sometimes like obviously a studio shoot is in a studio. So you're paying those fees on like an hourly basis, but then, if you're going on site.
I'm trying to bring up, oh man, I've seen that quote broken down, that quote from CTC. I'm trying to remember, but it was always inclusive of all these things, these line items.
Right.
And it was broken down significantly, but I've never broken down the costs. I remember seeing it, but I can't remember.
We're always just baking into the fees of like how this price point can get incredibly high. So like with an agencies that we know that it's like, hey, $15K is probably on the low end at a minimum. And we've seen quotes from other agencies. Like, my days at Kalo, we're paying north of $50K. It seemed like every single time.
Right.
We're also not talking about like when you brought up the catalog ad, we're not talking about just standard, product on white backdrop photography. Like those don't need models necessarily. But we're talking like models, like I said, with casting, and they're going to shoot some content, either imagery or video, in a studio. So you might get a handful of models and you're going to get a handful of unique assets. And then usually the agency is going to create iterations off those assets. Like,
Right.
so what should be, I guess, what's a normal expectation out of a studio shoot, production shoot, in terms of like the amount of creative?
Yeah, I just ran the numbers because I was trying to backtrack because without having a clear line by line item that makes up the cost. Yeah, my previous agency is 15K for a studio shoot, and you'd get 30 creatives in total, which backs out the average like market rate of like creative is $500. That's total pieces of creative, unique concepts. They offered five, so it was like five unique videos, 60 seconds long, cut up in a variety of different ways, delivering 30 total assets. That lines up with like the $500 per creative asset at that point. So that's completely what you got on the other side of it. 30 total creatives, 9x61x1, trimmed up in different ways, produced in different ways, different iterations, but it was ultimately five unique concepts, 60-second long videos.
Yeah, and I remember Kalo, just because that's my only brand experience, but like we would do video productions, 3 minute long videos that were going to be placed on YouTube that transparently like no one ever watched. Like it was like, it was typical, I guess, in the bucket of branding, right? Like you're painting a
Mm-hmm.
picture of like this new product launch or this new sort of key holiday that you want to paint the picture. And I guess not to say that that's entirely not important. I think branding is important. People are going to be investing in those things regardless. Um, but we're talking six figures for some of these commercials. And
Right.
I guess it basically is a commercial. So where we're going with all this, everybody, is a comparison to what you could get from influencers. So let's just paint the pros and cons, I guess, from influencers to studio shoot. Like, what would you say the pros of, doing what we just described of like all these different studio shoots,
Pros.
production shoots?
Hmm. Um, Bias here, bias, but I won't be. Pros. I mean, you definitely need catalog photos, right? You need that for bottom of the funnel catalog sales on paid media. You need it for your landing pages. So at the bare minimum, you need a studio shoot to get those sorts of items. It's great for retail. It's great just to have a part of your creative library. You want a diverse set of creative. Influencer generated content is one of those levers. Studio shoot assets is one of those levers. Um, so those would be the pros in my mind. But what would you say are some of the? Would you add any of those pros, or what else would there be? And then what would be the cons?
Yeah, I would throw in organic social content, right? Like, I guess just all the other places, like pros of having more content in the places that you can place it, the different avenues and channels. So like the Kalo example, YouTube, it went on our YouTube channel of like when they
Right.
launched teething necklaces and stuff like that. And it was a whole storytelling and
Yeah.
school.
I would also say there's a place for it. Like you run into this a lot with like luxury brands where they have to like
Mm-hmm.
maintain this elevated brand image.
Sure.
There's definitely a
Sure.
place for it there as well.
Right. That was a great point. Great job, Taylor.
Frick yeah. Yes.
Um, cons, you can kind of see where we're going with this conversation is just like the fees and what you get out of that on a price
Mm-hmm.
per asset basis. So,
Right.
you know,
So what do you
what
what do
you,
you typically see the costs doing this a different way then with influencers?
yeah, I mean, with our seating approach, obviously at the scale of which we're doing it, but even if you scale down, the price per asset is going to stay the same at that, if you get 30 influencers posting 2 to 3 times and those assets that come from seating, um, you have to throw in your cogs. I mean, throwing in your cogs plus our fee is obviously going to raise the price per asset. But if you just remove that and you're doing this internally,
Right, right.
um, it's just literally the cogs of your product at that point for the amount of assets.
Yeah,
So
so yeah, I mean, let's give the comparison then. Like 100 products at what cost you $20 to get it out, 2K in total. When we send out 100 products, you ultimately get 30 influencers posting 60 to 90 unique assets. Unique assets, make that very clear. So what is that like? And then if we're going to do the iterations on that, like in the same way studio shoots do. Let's just say we create 2, we get a total of 200 iterations on top of the uniques. That's $10 an asset.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. That's $20 cogs, but um, still, even if they're way more expensive, you're still probably getting a really good rate in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you seed 100 influencers at $100 cogs, like you're still getting on a unique asset, you're getting 130, and then it's $66 an asset. So
Come
now
on.
again, we're just comparing it to studio shoot, where like at a minimum you're getting $500 an asset, if not more.
And that's
Some of
not
these,
unique. And that's not
right,
unique.
right, yeah, and so like certain production shoots, you might get one large size production video, like kind of like what I was referencing with Kalo, like 2 to 4 minutes. Um, it's
Yeah.
storyboarding, it's script writing, it's video edits that you have control over. It's
Mm-hmm.
actors. You're going to a location, um, and that's 30 to 50K
Right.
um, divided by the amount of assets. So, I mean, you can just start doing the math here on comparing and contrasting. And I think what we're hesitant of is like to be cautious on that brands, you can't be doing this, but in terms of like you're going to pick and choose on a content pipeline to supplement paid media, like if you're constantly like what's more resourceful, what's more consistent for
Mm-hmm.
everyday brands? Is it like doing a 50K studio shoot every single month? Probably not.
No chance.
um, so yeah, like it's just one of those things where compare and contrast what you're going to be investing on influencer versus studio shoot. um, I think you bring up a great point though, with elevated, super high class, high end jewelry, high end. Like I just talked to an apparel brand the other day that's like very high end, U.S. made. They've done a
Mm-hmm.
great job with their branding, but they're in desperate need of UGC. So like you've filled that bucket now, right? Like
Right.
go get what we've preached and what we've talked about with like the native, raw, shaky, um,
Relatable.
user generated, like. And I think I don't know if you've seen this, Taylor, but like some of the stats around people that have seen like high production, when they see ads that are like too
It's
commercially,
repulsive. It's repulsive to
yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to buy. It's addy, I guess you could say. It's
Right.
salesy. Um,
Stop
they know that
infiltrating
they're
my
being.
feed. Stop listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah. So if it's like too professional, like, and I think, what we're going with is like, you need a mix, like you would never
Mm-hmm.
not run high production scripted content in that account because again,
Give it to me all. Give it all of it.
yeah, right.
Let's
Exactly.
test it all.
So,
But we have seen one outperform the other. But whose podcast are you on? I get it.
well, go into that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
across.
that's a great point though, just to cut you off real quick, is like, we're talking about price per assets at the end of the day, like
Yeah, that's it. Right.
what you're investing on a content basis. Like, what is the price to acquire an asset, which in today's world everybody's desperate for content creative. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's like the other side of it is like, how will this content perform, even if it's $10 per asset but it's not going to perform well. um, at least you didn't spend a ton of money. That's kind of like the only pro. But what we're seeing is like, this is incredibly cheaper, and to your
Right.
point, like it's performing better, right?
For sure. I mean, and it makes sense why, right? If I get $10 per asset and there's this $500 per asset, I have a 50-1 shot of whooping that ass. But, but
Bring that energy, baby.
yeah, sir. I got, oops. Sorry, mom. Um, no. But truly, yeah, we've seen across $350 million of ad spend, we've 100% seen influencer generated content outperform studio shoot assets. And it kind of goes to what we were just talking about. People, it's oversaturated. Studio shoot assets are oversaturated. It's repulsive. It's inauthentic. It's forceful. It's addy. It's salesy. People don't want to be sold something when they're not asking to be sold something. But that's exactly what Facebook advertising is. It's pre-intent buying. That's why it's the most powerful machine learning system in the world. But you got to make your ads not look like ads. And what allows
Mm-hmm.
that to happen is bingo, influencer generated content, right? It looks like an organic post. And I would all day lean into a creator that has proven to create content on the platforms we're looking to advertise on in comparison to someone on a brand team at a creative agency that thinks they know what aesthetically looks good and will perform. Like
Mm-hmm.
they got a proven track record. You don't at the end of the
Right.
day. So again, biased here, but hot takes. Let's run it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I would imagine someone might be thinking like, why do I need authentic users of the product? Or like why can't I use a model for imagery? I guess what we're really preaching is like video content, because like
Mm-hmm.
you can
Yeah.
fake an image, like if you get a model, hire a casting agency, and like they wear apparel, um, they can look beautiful, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to
Right.
be a believer, put on a smile and look good, and that's it. What we're really speaking to is like video content. Like and which again
Mm-hmm.
goes to our point of like video is performing best organically and on paid.
Right.
And that's where kind of the world's going. So yeah.
Come on. Yeah. I mean, exactly what you're saying. It kind of checks all that. When you think about it, it all makes sense, right? It's relatable content at the end of the day. That's what people want. They don't want to be feeling like they're being sold something. It's native to the feed. That's ultimately what's converting people at this point. So it's cheaper, it works better, and you get 50x the probability of success. Sounds pretty good to me.
There you go. Well, short one today, everybody, especially for brands that I've thought about, and I'm sure brands listening have invested in some form or fashion into a studio shoot of some kind, whether that be just models, if you're an apparel brand, and maybe you've wasted a lot of money on studio shoots. So there's another way of going about it in terms of capturing a ton of content. We definitely think influencer can be a huge pipeline to supplement wherever you're repurposing it, wherever's winning for you at the end of the day, in comparison to like the price per asset basis. So if you're thinking about, and content is a huge pain point for you, go back, listen to a previous episode on how to get started with influencer marketing. We kind of break down our seeding process as a way to source creative, where we would definitely highly suggest using it within paid media. But yeah, at the end of the day, as always, reach out to Taylor and I on Twitter. DMs are open. Current
Reach out to
costs.
Cody. Reach out to Cody.
Yep. Yeah, reach out to me. Don't Taylor. Taylor's way too busy for you. He told me that before we recorded the podcast.
Way to twist it. Way to twist it. Goodness.
But all right, guys. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends. Subscribe. Any more call to actions? Work with
Cody.
us.
Now, pay me. Pay me. Middle of the Funnel podcasts. Love you.
Peace out. All right, that's all for today. If you'd like some help developing your influencer marketing campaign, go ahead and DM us on Twitter. Links are in the description. Or you can head to kinship.co to learn more, and you can book a call there. That's KYNSHIP.co. At kinship.co, you also find tools, templates, and resources, all designed to help you grow an influencer campaign that drives visibility and sales, not just likes. Thanks for tuning in as always, and we'll see you next week.